Hello and welcome to the Social Newsroom. This is a special episode looking squarely at the fourth estate industry that has had a lot coming its way in the wake of the anti-government protests and Gen Z-led protests that have now been on for about a month, actually just a little over a month. Now, 2 days ago, the president said that enough is enough and he will not allow protests to continue, especially when they are destructive protests, destruction to property, or even threat to life. Well, as we speak, the Tuesday protest that was announced and largely and most popularly known as Occupy JKIA has been ongoing, but a bit muted and a bit on a low key as compared to the others as it started. However, in that time since the month-long protest that started, we have had announced, at least officially, that there have been at least 50 people who have died and over 400 injured. And in those numbers, and that's just not numbers, it's lives, we've had the lives of journalists that have been affected, tens of journalists who have been injured, and that's why we are turning to the stakeholders and leaders within the industry because there's something that we are planning, that is the media industry planning for tomorrow, also to go to the street in protest. And I'm joined by Eric Odor, the Kenya Union of Journalists Secretary General. Eric, thank you for joining us, first of all. And tomorrow, are you just joining or jumping onto the bandwagon of the Gen Z-led protests, or what's the agenda for tomorrow's protests?
Yes, if you look at the protests that we're going to have tomorrow, actually they're completely separated from what the Gen Z have been doing. And that's the reason why we chose a Wednesday. If you look at what has been going on and the trend, the Gen Zs have been having their protests on Tuesday and Thursdays. So we chose Wednesday because that is a day that it's relatively calm and we want to do it in our own way. So the protests that we're having tomorrow have got nothing to do with what the Gen Zs have been doing.
However, it is related in the effects of what has happened within the month of protests led by the Gen Z, and that is the injury as well as threats that have been faced by journalists. And we have most recently last week with the veteran journalist Macharia Gaizo being mistakenly abducted and then released shortly after to the embarrassing admission of the authorities, as well as Catherine Wanjeri not too long ago, who was shot while in Nakuru on the line of duty. And there have been several others who've been injured. So that at least has been the reason that you were planning this. What are you going with in terms
actually,
of...
to summarize is that we tell other people's stories. Huh? And even with having this protest, we've been telling other people's stories. Nobody tells our story. So we thought that it's also important that we also tell the people the story so that people also get to know what are these challenges that we are facing? Because if you look at the list of demands, people have been giving their demands of what needs to be addressed. So we thought that it's also proper for us to tell the whole world what are the challenges that we are facing. So basically tomorrow we will be delivering petitions. In Nairobi, we'll deliver petition 1 to the Office of the Inspector General of Police. Then another petition will be delivered at Teleposta Towers, which is the headquarters of Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy.
Most importantly, what's in that petition?
The petitions have got what we are calling irreducible minimums, some of the things that we need done. And number one of them, we believe that we do not have proper leadership at the ministry level. So, and the person whom we blame for all this is the PS, although we do not have a CS at the moment because of what is going on in the country. But even if we were to have a CS, we have got some reservations about Professor Kisiangani, who's the PS of ICT and in charge of the media. So that is number one. Number two, and like you've rightly said, we've had journalists who have been injured. Some journalists also have lost their tools of trade. So we want the government to take full responsibility and foot the hospital bills for these journalists, compensate them so that they're also able to get back to work, because some of them are freelancers. They're not employed by a specific media house, or even if they are, I believe that if you attack someone and it's illegal, then you need to compensate them. So that is number two. Number three, we are also looking at some of the directives that we've been seeing coming from Communication Authority, and we want to get that guarantee that Communication Authority will not switch us off. Like you said, that today we've got protests going on in Nairobi and all over the country, but they are more muted. You can't see the full coverage from the media the way it has always been. There's no live coverage of this protest. So that is also there that the media should be allowed to operate independently and make those editorial decisions without interference from the government. And another issue that we have in that petition is the guarantee that journalists will have safety whenever they are doing their work, because we've seen a number of attacks from the government, from the citizens. Actually, you'll be surprised that even the citizens have been attacking journalists during this protest. They have been robbed. Some of them have been injured as a result of being attacked by the protesters, not even the security. So that we are saying that the government has got responsibility to protect life and property. So we are saying that we want to see that also happening to the media. So those are some of the specific issues that are in that petition that we'll be giving the IG and the ministry.
Let me follow through at least on some of the irreducible minimums or your demands in the petition that you will be delivering tomorrow. And that is, first things first, to the PS within the ICT ministry, saying that you have concerns about some of the directives that have come from them. Be specific to that.
Yes, there are two directives that have come from the PS since the year began. And that touches on how the government carries commercials or advertising in the media. There was circular number 1 that came from the PS directing all government advertisement to go to one newspaper, to deny other papers the advertising revenue. Then there was a second one also touching on the broadcast section, and he directed all government and state departments, government agencies and state departments to advertise only with KBC so that they don't advertise with other commercial media houses. So those are two specific issues that we've seen come from the PS. There's a third one, actually, the recent one, the constitution of the Media Complaints Commission. The law requires the panel to be constituted to do the recruitment. The panel finished the recruitment and handed over the report with the recommendations as the law requires that the CS should go ahead and gazette the candidates who have been approved by the selection panel. The names that were forwarded were 7, but only 5 were gazetted. So 2 were dropped, and the reasons were that they are not suitable to hold a public office, with no details. So again, we're seeing the hand of a PS there, because the law recognizes the CS, not the PS, but we are getting this communication from the PS.
Right.
So that's why we're saying that we have serious issues with the PS.
Effectively speaking, would you then ask, are you asking for withdrawal of those directives?
Yes, we want those directives actually reversed so that we can have, we are in a democratic country, we are in a liberal economy. So we believe that the government should allow the businesses to run without interference, because that was in the law, that the government should not use the commercial tool to twist the media.
So are you saying, just besides the direct threat, some journalists have received threats to their lives or harm to their bodies, there is another form of threats that's coming from the government?
Yeah, there are other forms in terms of policies that are stifling freedom of the media. Then we have got direct threats that are being directed to journalists.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's something the president said on Sunday, that media should report responsibly. I'm sure you agree with that. But where do you see this coming from, and what's your response to that?
The main concern that what we've seen even before, and even in communications that we've seen between the government and media houses, the government is concerned with the live coverage of protests. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the president is saying that the media should be responsible by not airing what is going on live. And as the media, we've said that that is what is in the society. There's no way we can hide information from the public. So the information has to go to the public. So that's where that confrontation is coming in between the government and the media.
But you do agree that there's a code of conduct as well as ethical code of conduct that journalists are to follow, and the programming code, such as blatant airing of gory images and pictures, right?
Mark, as a veteran journalist, and we are the custodians of the code of conduct, and we know it too well. But what is supreme is the public interest. And we've always said, as a senior journalist, that there comes a times when you take public interest instead of the code of conduct. What matters, because even the code of conduct is supposed to serve the public. So if there's something that is not serving the public, we go with what is in the best interest of the public.
Okay.
So that's why sometimes you see the media going against the code of conduct, not because code of conduct is not important, but if you compare the code of conduct vis-a-vis the public interest and you feel that the public interest outweighs the code of conduct, then we go with public interest.
All right. And speaking to tomorrow, the center of it will be Nairobi, where I'm sure you will be physically as you submit the petitions. What will be happening around the country?
Yes, we will mobilize nationwide, and in the counties, the same petitions will be delivered, and now at the county level, the petition will be delivered at county commissioners or regional officers or regional office commissioners' office. Like I know, like in Nakuru, we've got a regional commissioner, so the petition will be delivered to the regional commissioner. In Kisumu, the same. Even in Mombasa, the same. Even in Kakamega, the same. But in the other counties where we've got county commissioners, the petitions will be delivered to the county commissioners.
And later on in the day, there will be an X space that I'm sure you'll be sharing on your platforms that people can tune in and contribute as well.
Yeah, actually, at the end of the protest here and in the counties, we will have a press conference. Which we'll have outside the telepost towers, because that's supposed to be the headquarters of journalism in this country. Then out of the counties, also we'll encourage our colleagues in counties, once they have delivered the petition, to address the media outside the county commissioners' offices. Then at 8, we meet at X. And then we can also engage the larger public also to participate in this conversation, because we realize that sometimes the citizens are not involved in all this process, so that they can also understand why it is important for us to have a free and independent media. Today, I've seen a lot of complaints that the media is not airing what is going on live, and therefore people are in the dark. So we want to tell them to compare what has been going on in those other protests and today, so that they can see why it is important.
But as you do that, isn't there a danger of putting journalists on the line? For instance, if they go somewhere and a station has been identified for not showing everything live today, and then they'll be told, "Usikuja hapa tena."
No, you see, that is what people are now complaining. People are feeling the pain of journalists not being in the field or airing what is going. So that's what the message we are going to tell them. That if you attack journalists and journalists run away from this protest, it is going to be worse. You'd rather have journalists there and offer protection, because journalists find themselves in the middle of being attacked by police and also being attacked by the protesters. So that actually is the message we want to tell them, why it is important that they offer safe corridors for journalists during this protest. Because if journalists are not there, they already felt the pain of journalists not being in the scene or airing what is going on.
Finally, tomorrow, on Wednesday, the protest by journalists around the country, but the conversation doesn't end there?
Yeah, it doesn't end there, because again, as the media, we've got responsibility to set the agenda and help the country move forward with the agenda. So on Sunday, we are going to launch a major town hall at the Bomas of Kenya. We'll be releasing the details later on, whereby we want to involve everybody in this conversation, and it will be hybrid, so that you can join us online. You can come there if you are among the people who are going to come there to be there physically. We'll invite members of the public, civil society, religious leaders, including opposition and the government, because the problem is also with the politicians. So we want to bring them there and start having this conversation. From there, we've learned about 6 of them. We'll go to northern Kenya. I think we'll have one in Garissa. We'll have one in Nakuru, we'll have one in Mombasa, we'll have one in Kisumu, so that every part of this country is actually covered. If resources allow, we'll even extend them more. But we want also to provide solution to the country, that we are not just complaining, we are not just attacking the government, but again, we can help the countries to set the agenda and have the discussion moving forward.
Well, I can attest to you that as a social newsroom, it is possible. At Semabox as well, we've carried out several town halls. However, there's a hot potato of deplatforming some individuals. Is the president as well invited for this town hall on Sunday?
Yes, we are going to invite the government. So it depends on...
You're just not saying the president?
Yes, we are going to, because in that we don't need targeting individuals. So we want to have the conversation in the government. So if the president believes that he can come there to represent the government, so be it. We are not discriminating against anybody. we want to have one conversation with all of us as a country.
All right.
So if the president wants to attend, if opposition leaders want to attend, let them come so that we can have this conversation. But of course, what I know is that the government is aware. We've already alerted them that we intend to have this conversation, and we've received some encouraging news. Mm-hmm. They are not opposed to it. They're saying that if we can converge there, why not? We will come. So we do not know who the government will represent the government, but the government is aware.
All right, Asante Sana. But in one line, basically what you're saying with tomorrow's protest, what's the main message? You can look into the camera.
The main message tomorrow is that we are not criminals. Do not shoot the messenger. That is the message.
Enough said. Thank you so much, Bwana Eric Odor from the Kenya Union of Journalists. Tutakuwa na nyinyi kwa ground. And the conversation continues. On the 17th of this month, the Kenya Editors Guild gave an announcement and actually a notice that within a week, if nothing changes in terms of answers towards the threats that are being meted at or put against journalists, then there will be action. Well, we're a few hours from the action, and I'm joined by the president of the Kenya Editors Guild, that is Zubeida Kananu. Thank you for joining us. I can see you're about to go on into studio for your bulletin. First of all, have you received any communication or response based on what you had said last week?
No, and I hope to see you tomorrow on the streets.
Aye, Captain.
We are proceeding with our protest. We served the IG with a 7-day notice, indicating that we'll be on the streets tomorrow, countrywide. But we haven't received any feedback from them. But we hope they received the notice that we issued through our lawyer, Danston Omari. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we look forward to that, and I hope to see you.
And for the journalists who faced some threats and even harm, it is at least the version of the KUJA Secretary General that not all journalists are able or confident to come forward and report, especially when you want to take action. Is this the case in your experience as well? And what is your call to the journalists who come in the face of threats?
When we engaged IPOA, they told us most of the cases died down because of lack of evidence. They died down because nobody filed any complaints with them. Yeah, and many of them, right now, most of our skilled journalists exited the newsroom. So right now we have very young journalists, maybe who may feel intimidated, who may be afraid of filing any case against anyone, especially the government. So we told them that's why these media organizations are in place. That's why we have Kenya Union of Journalists. That's why we have Kenya Editors Guild, amongst other organizations under the Kenya Media Sector Working Group umbrella. Mm-hmm. So in case you feel, you don't have enough confidence or courage to approach IPOA or any government entity, to seek for justice, you can go through the organizations that are already in place. And we are going to do that on your behalf. Yes. So we've been appealing to all journalists that have been harmed or injured in any way to reach out to us, and we will file the cases on their behalf. Very soon we'll be getting into an MOU with LSK for legal advice and also legal support. So we call out on all journalists to reach out to us, and we are going to do it on their behalf.
A week ago, Catherine Wanjeri was going about her business being reporting as a journalist based in Nakuru. And at this particular instance, she was reporting on the ongoing protests, which have been on for a little over a month now. The Gen Z-led protests, as it has come to be known. And yes, this is also another day that protests are being carried out. But Wanjeri is not on duty today. And the reason being that she was shot at on the line of duty by cops. She was actually moments before helping as the protests were picking up in Nakuru town. Catherine Wanjeri, thank you for joining us. And it's good to see you. And how are you feeling, first of all? Unajisikiaje?
I'm feeling better. I can't complain. It's been 1 week of good progress. My physical being is actually recuperating well, surprisingly in a very fast manner than I expected. And I thank God that I can be able to even make some few movements with my legs. So I'm happy for the progress.
We're grateful for that as well, and that's a good report we're hearing. And you, of course, from that day, it was pictures that were really shocking to see. I mean, on that day, you reported as you would on any other day. You were on duty from as early morning, right?
Apparently, like they say, you should always listen to your instincts. That particular day, I reported to work very late. Actually, I joined my colleagues at around 1:30 p.m., though the protest had started to escalate at around 10, 11-ish. But I went to where the protests were, like I would say, quote unquote protests were, at around 1:30 p.m., where other colleagues from other media houses had already reported. So I would say maybe my instincts were telling me something funny was about to happen. So it was not, I did not report in the morning like I had done previously. Did I know it was just a sign of telling me it's not going to end up well. Yeah.
And moments, we do see a video online that moments before what happened, you being shot, you were interacting with some of the police. What exactly was happening there?
Mark, before I left my house, I took a tube of toothpaste, which we believe, and I think maybe it's perception or maybe some myths, but it usually helps us in the effects of the tear gas. The tear gas effects, like the cries and everything, you feel like it's not as impactful as without the toothpaste. So I'd carried my toothpaste that particular day so that I can share it with my colleagues when we are covering the protest, because in our line of duty, if there's something that you cannot avoid is the tear gas canisters, the tear gas effect. So I had carried my toothpaste, and as you can see, even the video that has been going around, I have some white substance under my eyes. That is a toothpaste that I had applied on my face to help me deal with the effects of the tear gas. So as I was moving, I remember there was a time before I gave some of those police officers who were taken, whose video was circulating, I'd given some other police officers the toothpaste, and apparently they had said it's working magic for them. So they felt that they needed the toothpaste because they were also not immune to the tear gas effect. So along the way, some minutes, I think 15 or 20 minutes before I was shot, there's a lady, a police officer who had requested me to give them the toothpaste. So I had it in the press jacket that I was wearing, and I took it out and I gave them some of the toothpaste, and they applied it. Actually, I think I gave 3 police officers in that vehicle the toothpaste so that they can apply it, so that we can go on. It was around 3 p.m. so that we can go on with the protest since things were not likely to cool down anytime sooner. Yeah, so that's what I was doing with the police officers, and apparently we didn't have any cold blood between me and the police officer, so I didn't expect. It was not expected that I would have bad blood with them, because even we were talking with them even previously. So when they asked me to give them the toothpaste, I wholeheartedly give them the toothpaste.
So how does it make you feel that moments after the same group of police, I'm not saying it's that lady, but it is apparently from the same vehicle, that you were shot at directly, and you were just helping them moments before? How does that make you feel?
Betrayed.
Betrayed.
I would give it just one word: betrayed.
Right. And when, in the confusion in the theater of, let me call it theater of protest, this is not the first time you've done it. So you're used to when you need to run and there's tear gas being lobbed towards your direction. There's, ni mguu ni ponye. It's everyone to run to safety, or at least to some form of cover. And at that time, when there were shots directed at your side, and we could even see there were some cops not too far from you on foot, did you just think, oh, this is just shots in the air as we make our way? And when did it hit you that, my goodness, something's off?
I wouldn't say they did shoot in the air, because apparently, Mark, where I was, were just a few journalists. And apparently where I was standing when I realized I've been shot, we were with some police officers who are manning one of the microfinance banks in this country. So I wouldn't say that it was shooting there. Actually, when I got the guts, or when I got the energy to look at the videos, that was on Sunday, because I didn't think before then I had the energy, the willingness to look at those videos and see how I was shot. I was not mentally prepared to look at those videos. But when I looked at that video on Sunday, it was not coincidental. It was not an accident. That was something that they were aiming at. They were actually aiming at me. And at that particular path, at that pavement, there were very few people that was on that pavement. And particularly, and to be honest, we were all on press jackets. And behind us were the police officers from the Kenya prisons. So I don't think it was coincidental. I will still insist. I don't think it was an accident. It was in there. If it was in there, the gun should be looking up there. But it was aimed at me.
Right.
It was seriously and directly aimed at me.
Pole sana. And you say you've been treated. So what did you incur? Was it 3 rubber bullet wounds, or 4? What was the diagnosis? What's the situation?
I'm out of danger because none of the rubber bullets got to my bone, and I went to the operating room and as operated maybe an hour or two. I can't really remember. Because of the confusion, and I would say like the trauma, you wouldn't keep track of time. So I went to the theater, and one of the surgeons in Nakuru City came and operated on me, and I was halfway sedated, so they could actually show me what was getting out of my body. So they showed me the 3 bullets that were removed from my body, and they told me now from there they're going to stitch my body, and then the only thing that I'm going to do is do the physios for my leg, and washing my wound, which I cannot do it. So I have to look for hire a nurse, maybe after every 1 day, to come and clean my wound, because I am not a professional in that. I'm not qualified in that profession. So I have to look for a nurse who comes like every day to come and clean my wound, so that it wouldn't be prone to infections. But so far, so good, I thank God.
Thank God, indeed, and that you'll be back on your feet, fortunately, and back to work. Just tell us now, after you had the procedure, you're in hospital, you're recovering, there is a version of a story that there were some individuals who were coming there in the name of investigating, and fortunately, your colleagues from Nakuru, other journalists, were very quick to pick up. What happened? What was that case?
I will give that scenarios at that party because I was not there.
Yeah,
I was still laying in my bed, waiting for the surgery to happen. But apparently, some of my colleagues had told me that there were some DCI officers who had come and they had requested to talk to me before I went to the theater. And apparently that's when there was bad blood between now the officers, the officers and my colleagues who denied them access to me until I got to the theater. They told them maybe anything that they wanted to get from me, it would have to wait till I went to the theater and the bullets were removed. So their objective or their reason of coming to see me up to today, I've never known.
Yeah.
And I hope I am safe after doing this interview.
Right.
Because I have never seen the DCI officers since then, but I interacted with other security officers after.
Right. And I mean, there are versions of people trying to conceal evidence in such incidences. And so your guess is as good as mine as to what they were up to. But thankfully, your colleagues were at your defense, and you do speak of them as coming through for you in a really, really big way. I'm sure you have them to thank and others, your colleagues from Nakuru.
Yeah, I think 90% of the battle that I've fought in Nakuru, in the hospital that I was in Nakuru, I would really thank my colleagues, because since that day, Mark, I would, in a very emotional way, say that I never slept in that hospital alone. We even broke the protocol of letting the patient be alone, because they were very much concerned about my safety, because they thought if it had happened before I went to the theater, it was bound to happen even after. So I thank my colleagues in a big way. The Nakuru journalists, I'm forever indebted to them, because they stood by me. They stood by me till the day that I was discharged. Even today, they're looking in, they're calling, they're texting and checking up on me. And apparently, Mark, they even told me they're going to talk to even the IPOA to see how my case is going. If there is anyone who has been apprehended, if there's anyone who has been arrested, because I'm very far from Nakuru, and I cannot be able to tell if there is any police officer who has been arrested. And I think as per now, the only thing that matters to me is getting help.
Right. And definitely back to work, to what you love. But speaking of closure, there's definitely need for closure for anyone in this case. And you've mentioned IPOA, that has been reported. I don't know, when the larger community, Media Council, Editors Guild, Union of Journalists, Media Max, have they supported in any way in pushing this case forward?
Yeah, when something good is done to you, let us always applaud them. The Media Max CEO came to visit me when I was still in the hospital, and he assured me that they are going to take this case seriously. One being one of their employee, secondly being a female journalist. I would it was only natural for them to take care of their daughter. But the CEO, the Media Max CEO, has promised that he's going to make sure that no stone is left unturned. I also met with the MCK, Mr. Omoyo. He also came to visit me. That was on Friday last week, and he also promised the same. He said they're working closely with the Media Max CEO to make sure that the officer who did this heinous act is apprehended, and law is taken and justice taken on my side, because I believe that is one of the ways that will make me heal mentally, Mark.
Right. And it also sent a message to the others in terms of not using force against those who are at the line of duty and doing their job. And tomorrow, there are journalists who are going to the streets, and a big part of that is to protest what has happened to journalists such as yourself. What does this mean for you? And what's the importance of such a push on the streets tomorrow by your fellow journalists?
Mark, I think us talking and us protesting about the freedom of press being suppressed, it's something that has been long overdue. It's something that we've been going through. It's only that we didn't maybe get the avenue or the right channel or the right case study to just say enough is enough. Like we are all using that word, enough is enough. I think for the journalists, it's way overdue, because the press freedom has way been suppressed, and I think it's about time. But now, since we have the channel, since we've started it, I think tomorrow's protest is the right way to go. We have been the people that have been standing there, listening to people complaining, lamenting about ABCD, politicians talking, maybe residents, Kenyans complaining. We have been the bridge of their voices, and we have never had anyone to be the bridge to our voices. So I feel that these protests are the right time, and they need to be taken seriously, and we need to take the press freedom seriously, because if we don't, Mark, we are going, as a country, we are going in the wrong and the dark old days that I hear of.
All right. And finally, you've said enough is enough. From your experience, have you seen it all? And are you saying enough is enough for Wanjeri in the field of journalism, or can we expect to see more of you?
As a journalist, I'm not pulling out from the experience. I'm not pulling out from being a journalist. In any case, the one who did this to me made me even a stronger person, Mark. I never thought that I would sit down and have an interview in any case and be the one who's been interviewed. So they've given me the energy to wake up and even push for more stories, those stories, extrajudicial stories, because they are there lying down and people just, like someone is shot. We've seen ourselves even doing stories, and you get to the hospital, you interview the victim, and that's it. We never follow it up. But now it hit us home. it did hit home. And now we realize that we've not been doing enough for those people who have been experiencing the extrajudicial cases, the extrajudicial,
Killings.
what do you call them?
Yeah.
So I feel I think I'm not pulling down from being a journalist. I'm actually waiting for my way to recover and go back to work and start with those cases. Now that myself, I am a case study, and I hope Mark, as my fellow journalists, go to the streets tomorrow. I will be the last case of a police officer shooting on a journalist.
Well, first, get full recovery, and we're wishing you all the best in that journey for recovery and some much needed rest as well. Thank you for your bravery to speak to us, as well as your bravery to say you will be back to the field to report as part of the Fourth Estate. Catherine Wanjeri, quick recovery for you, and asante sana for speaking to the Social Newsroom.
Thank you, Mark, for having me.
Asante sana. And she says enough is enough of injuries or threats towards the journalists, but it's not the last you're hearing from her as a reporter and journalist, and she will keep giving it all her best. It's now time to engage another stakeholder within the media sector, and that is the Media Council. And I'm pleased to be joined by the manager of press freedom, safety, and advocacy, and also a journalist herself by her own right. And Dina, thank you for giving us time. We know you couldn't join us physically, but this is a social newsroom, so it fits perfect. Having seen, we've just spoken to Catherine Wanjeri. She's doing well. She's healing, recuperating, thank God. But as a journalist yourself, a lady journalist, seeing her on the floor last week after she was shot, how did that make you feel?
Of course, Mark, it's an unfortunate situation, and it looks like we, as media, we live in very extraordinary times, because the case of Catherine was one that, if you were a keen observer, you were able to tell that it was a very deliberate act of targeting, a journalist being targeted while in the line of duty by a law enforcement officer who was ideally expected to protect the life of Catherine as opposed to attacking them. And for someone to be shot 3 times, it tells you that it was very deliberate, and whoever who was perpetuating the violation was very deliberate about it, and almost sending a message that, you are not an exception, and we can attack you, and we can get away with it. So it's a very unfortunate situation that we are dealing with, and it creates a very bad image for us as a country, because we are not only, these things that are happening in Kenya have an effect on the image of the country, and for a country that is proud of a very progressive constitution that was promulgated in 2010, it then shows you that we are making steps backwards as opposed to forward, as we are supposed to.
And even what happened a day later, the apparent mistaken identity and abduction of the senior journalist, Macharia Gaido, as well, what that makes you feel and what that communicated to you, even with the excuse of mistaken identity, the damage was already done.
Yeah, it looks like, of course, the security agencies wanted to make it look an accident, that it was a case of mistaken identity, but you will also notice that it came only a day after the journalist has been shot, and therefore makes you ask the question: was a security agency sending a message, shooting a journalist today and then abducting another tomorrow, so that and blaming mistaken identity? It is something that I think the industry has taken note of, and already you're seeing what is happening. And tomorrow we are having the media industry organized a protest just to make a statement that what is happening is not acceptable. And if whoever who was doing that was trying to send a message, then one would think that they were trying to create fear among journalists, so that then they feel that whatever they are doing has consequences. But the problem comes when the work of the media is protected by the Constitution, nobody has come forth to demonstrate that the media has broken the law in what they are doing in terms of covering demonstrations and shining the light on whatever is happening in the country. And I would like to draw your attention to the, conflict resolution mechanisms that have been set by the Constitution under Article 33, 34, and 35 of the Constitution. No, the government has not made any effort, to demonstrate that within these rights that you've been given and the limitations that have been set in law, there is ABCD that the law has, the media has violated, and therefore there is need for you to be punished or sanctioned. And even if it had to come to that, it doesn't have to be through abduction or shooting of journalists.
Right.
There are clearly set out channels of dealing with complaints and disciplining the media for that matter.
Just to help understand, generally from Media Council's perspective, but specifically from your perspective as manager of press freedom, safety, and advocacy, what course of action Dina takes on behalf of Media Council once she learns of the incidents that have happened, for instance, with Catherine Wanjeri and Macharia Gaido?
Of course, Mark, we have as an institution that has been given a mandate to safeguard safeguard press freedom under Article 34 of the Constitution. We have various programs that we have to protect the media, as with an exception, of course, of arresting people and prosecuting them, because that is purely the work of government. And that's why we are trying to push government so hard so that then they realize that they are not supposed to attack the media, but they are also in charge of protecting the media just like any other Kenyan. But in terms of our program work, whenever we receive complaints, and I would like to say that June and July, during the time of demonstrations, have been particularly difficult for the media, and we have received and addressed over 15 complaints ranging from attacks, harassment, profiling, online harassment, and all that. And one of the things that we do is verification, because there are also people who pose as journalists, but they are not. So once we receive a complaint, we are able to verify. And then, of course, some of the cases are urgent. For example, that of Catherine Jerry. Whenever a journalist needs emergency response, that's something like evacuation, medical attention, and of course, you've seen us issuing various guidelines on how journalists should conduct themselves. In the line of duty, you saw us releasing guidelines on how female journalists should protect themselves, the responsibilities of media houses in, strengthening their policies to support journalists when they are being assigned to cover hostile situations that like protests, because we also realized that there is a gap in terms of preparation. How do journalists prepare when they are going to the field? How do they do risk assessment? How do they respond? Because protests, an environment like protests, the situation can escalate very fast, and it requires some personal capacity. Journalists need to be conscious that things can change very fast, and how do they respond. The council has been in the field, providing identification gears such as jackets, and of course we know that there is a gap in terms of provision of protection gear, because things like bulletproof jackets and helmets are very expensive. And this is a gap that exists in the industry because media houses are not able to provide. And of course, as a public institution, it also becomes a challenge, to provide every journalist with such gear. But we have done a lot, including also psychosocial support. For example, we are planning to have a series of briefings and debriefings for journalists who have covered maandamano, because, as human beings, they are bound to be traumatized and to suffer because of those difficult experiences that they have faced in the line of duty. So, but I think it's important to say that the emphasis should be on prevention and protection, and it's not purely a media council affair. It is a shared responsibility. It's a personal responsibility, starting from a journalist, going into your employer and media house, and also now that of government and security agencies. We are saying that we can do this better, we can prevent these situations that now we are trying to respond to. The confrontations that we are seeing can be dealt with if we are able to prevent them. And also, whenever an accident happens, we are able to protect those who have fallen victims, as opposed to be the ones who are perpetuating these violations.
Yeah, and thank you, by the way, from the Social Newsroom's perspective in Silverbox. You kitted us with this press jacket, so you can't see it from your end probably, but asante sana. And now, in terms of threats, besides just people getting direct threats in terms of their physical body being harmed online, their numbers being shared, and this happened last week with some Royal Media Services journalists like Linus Kaikai, Muraya Kariuki, Mashirima Kapombe. There is also on an institutional level a threat in terms of operational stall. So you've had statements from regulators like the Communications Authority of Kenya and messages to editors directly in terms of their live coverage of these protests. What's the position of the Media Council on this?
Mark, the council has, I believe, done its best to make its positions known through the statements that we have issued in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And in the latest statement, we have been, I think the council was also expressing concern that what is happening, it's a deliberate effort by the people who are in charge of communication in government to misunderstand the media, because you said that me and you are journalists, but if, Mark, today you went into government, I would expect that you will be in a better position to understand what the media needs, the kind of information they need. But if that does not happen, if you do not want to help the media to do its work, at least let it do its work without intimidating it. So what we are seeing is, I think, a deliberate effort by the government to say that, the media has to do what we want it to do, as opposed to what they are supposed to do within the Constitution.
Okay. And so in terms of tomorrow's protests, the Kenya Union of Journalists have spoken, the Kenya Editors Guild have spoken, correspondents around the country are also said to be going to the streets tomorrow in their respective jurisdictions. What is the Media Council, Council's position on this, and your message in terms of irreducible minimums to the government?
I think that we have put it very clearly out there about what the council stands for and what it wants to be done. And on the forefront, really, of the demands is that we want the officers who have been, some of them are well known, some of them have concealed their identities. But what we're saying is that the officers who have been attacking the media, harassing the media, need to be brought to account. And it's something that we have told the Independent Police Oversight Authority and also, national government, because police act on orders. So we believe that it is something that the Ministry of Interior will take up and instruct their commanders and officers all over the country that they have a responsibility to protect the media. And also our call to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions that whenever these cases come to their attention, they should be able to be acted upon. Having said that, is that we also believe that there is an opportunity in dialogue, because it is said that you cannot keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So what we are saying is that why can't you give dialogue an opportunity? Why is it that the government is speaking at close passes with the media? Is it because they do not understand each other? Can you claim that really the media does not know what they are doing, or those in government do not understand the responsibility and the work of the media? Where is the gap? Can we then put our heads together, not to agree, but to agree to disagree, but in a way that is acceptable within the law. So the media stakeholders are going to the streets tomorrow. It's also another constitutional right that all Kenyans have to picket and to petition and to make demands. So we believe that there will be no violations, that there will be no attacks, and that they will be given their space, to express their concerns and put out a statement in defense of the media.
And Media Council also is involved in terms of when complaints are brought forward against any media house. And there was quite a statement there from the president on Sunday. For he said enough is enough in terms of the protests. He also called on the media to report responsibly. Do you think, in your view, in the month-long protest coverage, that there has been irresponsible media coverage or journalists carrying themselves in an irresponsible manner?
What you've just highlighted there, Mark, is the problem that we're talking about, that everyone is standing on public spaces and with a lot of respect to government and the president, is that, of course, this is something we saw started even before this government came into office, that the media was being accused of doing this and that, but nobody has really come out specifically to point out a section or an act that has been done, within the context of the second schedule of the Media Council Act, that is the Code of Conduct for the Practice of Journalism. Is there anybody who is accusing the media of engaging in misconduct? What are these complaints? Can they be put, through in the right channels as envisaged in the law? So it's good for people to, the media is supposed to be accountable to the public, and it's one of the things that we exist to do, to ensure that the media is accountable. But you can only be put to account if someone is pointing out the specific, misconduct that has taken place, and of course saying that some remedy is required. So we are available to receive complaints and to adjudicate, within the Media Complaints Commission. But now nobody has come to raise a specific complaint. So and we are encouraging everyone really to come and complain that this media house has done this and that. So far, what we are seeing are general statements. The media should stop, negative coverage. The media should stop being unfair. But even when you are going to court and you are accusing someone, there has to be an offense that a judge has to look at.
All right. Thank you so much, Dina Ondari, the manager for press freedom, safety, and advocacy, for your time and thoughts here on the Social Newsroom on behalf of the Media Council. And we've heard from the Kenya Union of Journalists. We've heard from the Kenya Editors Guild. We've heard from Catherine Wanjeri, a journalist herself who's come in the line of fire or under the line of fire. And we've also heard from the Media Council that pushes for media freedom. And that in line of, or in the same voice of the Fourth Estate, we've heard from the four journalists themselves. They have said quite clearly, enough is enough of threats against press and as well press freedom. This is a Social Newsroom. I'm Mark Masai.